In the early 1990s, Barry King came forward with amazing tales of global mind control systems and the creation of programmable generated life forms in, of all places, an underground base near the sleepy Berkshire village of Peasmore. King claims he has been given the go-ahead by sections of British Defence Intelligence to leak details of horrendous experiments on human beings and the creation of man-made programmable aliens, to stage false alien abductions or MILABs. We allow King to make his claims and then provide a counter-interview with other researchers who doubt that anything he is saying is based on fact or has any evidence at all. Author Lisa Williams, who has encountered Greys on many occasions, joined King in a public park for Basis 1 and concurred with much of what he had to say. In Basis 2 Take 2, we revisit areas first covered by the original Basis tapes released in the 1990s. We do so as events are now unfolding which give further credence to this material. So let's roll tape and start Basis 2 Take 2.
Okay, this is Miles. We've just returned back from Peasmore, during which time I was met at Junction 13 of the M4. In front of me was a police motorcyclist and behind me was a police motorcyclist. They followed me for about a mile just before Cheveley, where I then entered the Peasmore area. At Peasmore I appeared to have got lost and I've been suffering with very severe buzzing and numbness in the back of the head, just as I was trying to find the original NSA facility at South Foley. So apart from that, and the finding finally of the pub which Mr. King has mentioned and allegedly been to, it would appear that Peasmore is what it would appear to be. Some kind of strange facility. Certainly the buzzing has only just left as I've just arrived now here in London. There does seem to be something happening there. So that's what I'm reporting at this time.
In the 1990s, Larry Warren was the only person trying to keep the Bentwaters case alive. So we include an interview with him and a visit to the Air Force Base where he worked. Larry was able to keep the case going and help create the circumstances, allowing others to speak out now.
Significance to this, not only England, but Ireland and Scotland and Wales and the world, us, is that this is an event that involved numerous people, a series of events that involved highly trained observers, very well documented. There's more documentation on Bentwaters in the public realm than there is on Roswell. There's just a lot of alleged stories with Roswell and old retold tales. Not that I don't think there is any truth to Roswell, but I think this is a current contemporary event, only 15 years old this year. The importance, first of all, to this country is that it happened on British soil. Your Ministry of Defense claims there is no defense significance to these events.
Yeah, I have a letter from them on it saying that.
Well, if it was of no defense significance and all that, we were a nuclear base. We are the largest weapons storage dump in NATO.
Are you allowed to say that without compromising
well, I'm
national
probably
security?
not. People aren't pleased that I'm saying it, I'm sure. But I do, because number one, my country has lied to yours for many years. The Americans wouldn't like very much if England came over and put nuclear weapons in our backyard very much. As Americans, we started to see that imposing our will on the rest of the world for whatever reasons. I mean, the Russians are gone. They're no threat anymore, apparently, right?
Were they ever a threat?
Were they ever a threat? I don't know. They were, when I was in the military, we were trained that they're the big bad guys. I'm not so sure.
So what happened at Bentwaters? And what?
I knew you were going to do that to me. In a nutshell, we had 3 nights of UFO events in 1980. We had, on the first night, there were 3 security policemen, 2 security police, 1 law enforcement that was sent out into the woods.
These are American personnel?
American security police to investigate a series of lights in the forest. One of the 3 of the airmen were John Burroughs, Jim Peniston, and a guy named Cabanasac, his last name, I don't remember his first. They encountered an object these men were missing for 4 hours. They were out of contact with the base. Contrary to what has been told in this country, they were abducted and missing and were put through a series of experiments. I've heard their regressive hypnosis tapes. These guys aren't happy this happened to them. The next night there were some other events. I have no idea to what degree, sightings at the very least. The third night was the big night. That involved the landing or the appearance of a craft on the ground, numerous sightings of different objects in the sky, firing beams of light down to the ground, harmless apparently, but also
where do these beams of light go?
On the ground, but also on the ground and through our weapons storage area, the hardened earthen covered bomb storage facilities where we kept tactical nuclear weapons.
Did this affect the weapons in any way?
It probably did. Apparently it did. I don't know this firsthand, but it seems that there was an emergency there. We had tactical teams flown in from Germany the next day to deal specifically with the nuclear ordnance and any potential damage they may have suffered during the course of these alleged events. Mr. Colonel Halt publicly states that the plane came in, but he doesn't know why it came in. Well, as the commander of an Air Force base, you don't let anyone just land on your base and not know why. The reason he can't say why they were there is because he still can't admit we had nuclear weapons, because he is more held under the National Security Act of 47 than I am, or than I allow myself to be.
So what sort of stockpile of weapons are we dealing with?
We're dealing with tactical nuclear, we were dealing with tactical nuclear weapons for use in battlefield situations, low yield, but with the amount that we had, if there had been a chain reaction between our two bases, we had the largest weapons storage area in the whole of NATO on RAF Woodbridge. There would have been an obvious disaster. I mean, it would have been the worst thing ever. And so for the Ministry of Defense to make any comment, at least they do, my government still denies anything happened, even when you force the issue and show them evidence. Oh, well, then they'll make up some other excuse and lie. But
so what evidence is there that anything actually happened there?
Evidence. The evidence is as varied as anything one would expect to see in a court of law. Quality witness testimony and affidavits and statements. An actual audio tape made on site, at the very least, is a edited.
That's the Halt tape.
The Halt tape, which is authentic, folks, and was made on site. The reason there's an echo in it, apparently people think here it was made in a room. The reason why is that from the actual tape, it was transferred onto another tape by holding one tape recorder next to another in a room, so you're getting that echo. No one I know has the first generation except Mr. Halt, probably. And that's the very least, where if you look at that tape, which is 18 minutes of 4 hours, still it's very significant. You're having senior people in the United States Air Force dumbstruck at what they're seeing. You have the Halt document, which is the unexplained lights memo that was released in my country from your Ministry of Defense, though they denied it existed up to that point. That was released because of information I provided that led to a free FOIA request, and after 5 denials, it was released by your country, not mine. We have soil analysis from some of the landing sites that bear up.
How many landing sites were there?
At least 3. The main one is on a farmer's field called Capel Green, where most of our work is focused. This is where this soil analysis that has been done, it's been done 3 times. It will be done again while we're here.
So the soil is still contaminated 15 years later?
The soil is affected, and quite a bit so affected.
What sort of event happened at that place?
At that place, an object appeared on the ground in the place of a mist. I saw this happen. A red light moved in, exploded. It caused retina and eye damage to a lot of us peripheral people. A structured object was in its place on the ground, though you couldn't look directly at it. You'd have to look at it with your peripheral vision to get the shape. Entities were seen.
How many?
3. Looking very translucent, not your what they call gray, all that sort of thing. It was almost ghost-like. Very much animated, self-animated though. That whole event was filmed.
Did they walk out of the craft?
They didn't.
Did they
Well,
just
no.
appear?
They
What
were
craft?
floating about a foot above the ground in a very bright light. The lower extremities were very hard to see. They were a foot off the ground.
Did anybody meet them?
Well,
Did they
people
have
saw them, and our wing commander was very close at one point, but I can't say there was contact, and I've been misquoted an awful lot on this. Is that for the things that did not happen is that we did not repair any craft. Years ago I was asked this, and in America we have home box office.
Yeah.
They did a documentary, and they took an interview I did with the BBC and chopped it up to make it sound like I was saying what didn't happen did happen. That's why you can't win in this
They
stuff.
do that.
First of all, is that there was no crash of anything. Second of all, we didn't help repair any spaceship. I don't know for a fact this was a spaceship, you know? Then, also they said that the wing commander shook hands with these aliens. I mean, it's absolute ludicrous. It's not true. There was observation.
So there was not a meeting of top military.
I don't
brass
know.
with them.
I've always felt there could have been communication of some sort, maybe telepathically, if this was a real event. I feel it was a real event, not a projection or a holographic test of troops' reactions and all that. There's so many theories. But I think it was just that, a non-terrestrial event.
So how many people were there?
On that night, there was,
This is the last night.
this is the last big night. It was roughly, 85 or so. There were two British bobbies from the town of Woodbridge. Years ago I was misquoted, because I said there were 200 people working that night that were all aware these events were happening. Thus it became there were 200 people there. We didn't have 200 security police working that night. There were English civilians that witnessed these events. We've interviewed many of them. Different elements of these
Who is
events.
we and what are you saying on this?
We is my co-author, Peter Robbins. We have the first book from a first-hand witness, that being me, due out in '96, called Left at East Gate, a first-hand account of the Bentwaters-Woodbridge UFO incidents, its cover-up and investigation. It's a long subtitle, but we're sticking with it.
And you asked earlier about, why am I walking around? There were, at a time, I think in 1980, 81, 82, when I first went public, quite by accident, not for attention, it's not worth it, not for any money, there isn't any. I think the powers that be that control this information feel that people like myself at that time would come out and you get eaten up by the community you go to for help anyway.
Actually, yeah, she might do.
What would you
Well, I
like to
told her,
say?
she gets off.
And the book is the results of 8 years of intensive research and the investment of almost $150,000 or $170,000 of her own money to get at the bottom of this. And I'd say we've done a damn good job now. We could present this in any court of law, anywhere, and the jury would vote in favor of the reality of these events. Hands down.
So, what do you intend to do with this once this comes out?
Well, I've been on the public record for 13 years now and a public figure in the UFO field.
This has got you into trouble in the past.
Many times, yeah.
So what about the cover-up? What about our government? What about the relationship that our government has with your government on this? And
I think on this subject, your government answers to my government. I think my
even though
government...
this happened on our soil?
Yes, and I think my government sets the policy for our allies on how to deal with this subject. I know it's going to upset people. Sure doesn't make me feel good, but I think my government sets the policy. And
But in a sense, are you being deliberately allowed to smooth the waters or break this? Are you a leading edge?
Well, no, I only represent myself, and I would never work in conjunction with my government to help
But
them
in
do anything.
in essence, are you being allowed to do this?
Well, I'm just doing it. I don't know if I'm being allowed. Last year they suspended my passport, violated federal law to do so, to keep me out of this country because I'm more of a danger here talking about it than getting swallowed up in the masses in America. and with the help of a very high-profile U.S. Attorney, who was Attorney General of our country for a couple presidents, did I only get my passport back just recently. It's harassment technique, so I don't think I'm being allowed to do much. I just do it. And the reasons I do it is because I think people have a right to know and be able to get mad enough to hold their government accountable.
But you mentioned earlier that the United States makes a lot of bullets and they're very cheap, and they...
Oh, well that was said to us by some people when we were being debriefed the next day.
What does the debriefing involve?
The debriefing's pretty standard from a lot of people I've spoken to. It's you're debriefed according to your rank. There's a lot of psychological warfare tactics used on you. They act like friends. The debriefers, they do not discuss the UFO subject whatsoever. They don't tell us that what we saw wasn't true, but it's a very long and complex kind of thing. They showed us motion picture footage of objects gun camera footage dating back to the 50s, which they obviously brought into the base to show us, with no narration and designed to confuse, give you a...
So they end up trying to disorientate your references?
Disorientate your references and affect your credibility, so if you ever did open your mouth. A lot of people spoke. I just am the most public person. I was on the record the longest. I was the first to make the story come out. I'm the guy. Because of me, the Halt document was released. Because of me, the Halt tape was introduced into the public realm and given to the media, because I was given it in Japan and told not to give it to anyone, and I said, yeah, right, and I did. Because of me, other witnesses were contacted. And what they say, some of them on record, they're not being fully forthright. They have to sleep at night. I have nothing.
Which is fair, I suppose.
Have to. I don't know how they were affected by it. This is more of a story of how different people are affected by events like this. Everyone's psychology is different. I am a classic whistleblower. You can kick me in the teeth, I'll spit them out and then get right back up and go at it again. I don't like being told no. I can be shown and accept if I'm wrong and admit that, but I have yet to see it. And I stand up for what I believe in. I'd like, if anything, when younger people are in audiences when we speak, to inspire at least that in them, to stand up for what you believe in any element in life.
If this was just a lighthouse, why is this causing so much grief to the government?
Right. Well, I had someone say to me yesterday who just did not want to accept that this could have been an alien event, which I believe is a non-terrestrial series of events that the intelligence community took advantage of after the fact, which is a whole other angle on this.
What do you mean by that exactly?
There was meddling with some personnel, including myself, after the fact by elements within our government.
What do you mean by meddling? What do you mean by meddling?
Narcotic intervention, psychological warfare, for whatever motive that is provable. I'm not going to go into that at this moment, but there's a lot to it. It's very disturbing and has caused a lot of problems for a lot of us.
How many are you talking when you mention us?
Quite a number, about 20 guys, if not.
And you've come together to...
Well, I wish people could come together more in this case, but there's not a lot of unity amongst Bentwaters witnesses because a lot of people have government jobs still. A lot of them are on retirement, and a lot of them are just plain scared to deal with this.
Which is
totally reasonable. Absolutely. My best therapy was being able to discuss it years ago. I got sick of telling my family about it. I might be the first person even to write about it. I wrote a letter to my mother, which you'll see today. I saved everything. Within 2 days of the event, 5 days of the event, describing it much like, and in the second person, describing it much like the Halt document, because I was trying to minimize the event and minimize my involvement because I knew they would read the mail. I thought they would. They told us they were intercepting our mail. And then I wrote on the bottom, I'll tell you the whole story when I see you in person. Because I tried to call her immediately in that morning and say, Ma, I saw a UFO, I got caught. The next day I was identified as a troublemaker with this story, while it was still in.
Did that affect your...
Oh, totally. It was horrifically horrifying to be in the Air Force after that. I was a threat. I was a major threat. I was a problem.
You mentioned earlier that the life at the base wasn't particularly wonderful. The suicide rate was very high.
The highest in the Air Force. We know that for fact.
For what reason, what kind of stresses were people undergoing in the course of their lives there, which caused that? Was it the number of tests and technologies that they were using?
Well, there was a lot of things that...
Electronic warfare systems?
Well, there was a lot of very strange things that were always going on at those bases. Even beyond exotic weapons.
Mention any details?
I wouldn't right now because I'm still exploring some avenues. Not to be mysterious.
No.
I could end up like a fool. There's a lot of very bizarre elements to those facilities. And
which facilities?
Bentwaters and Woodbridge.
Are you aware that the connections with any other bases in England?
No, they were unto themselves. I can say that sightings are still continuing there to this day. They have always been indigenous to the area. Bentwaters, a lot of people may not realize, in Project Blue Book, the 1956 Bentwaters incidents, the radar visual, were one of the best documented radar visual incident sightings in the history of the subject that Blue Book couldn't discount.
Some people have suggested that there's a very major underground facility there, which
those people are right. I'm one of them.
Essentially, for want of a better word, an alien
origin. There was a time in my life when I thought that. I'm not certain that that facility is that. There are reasons why. This is one of the areas we're exploring right now. A lot of information has just come up amongst other witnesses.
Heard of a project called Project Mannequin? A genetic project where we are manufacturing these things?
In association with Bentwater?
Possibly, yeah.
That I don't know. There are some disturbing elements to this.
Isn't alien, it's man-made genetic things.
Oh, I personally don't believe it, but that's all right. I don't believe that.
So they've shut the base down essentially now. Is it still active?
It is active.
Or have they made it dormant rather than
well, the funny thing with this is RAF Woodbridge has been taken over by the Royal Army. RAF Bentwaters has apparently been sold to the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for his Transcendental Meditation College.
How is it that we're able to talk about it here, but you don't seem to be able to talk about it in the States?
Well, I have for years, but in the States you get lost in the hype. They showed a film here yesterday that, all I'll say about it was absolutely embarrassed to watch personally. I was absolutely insulted by it. And
I can't understand how that film survived so long that people actually thought it was worth showing.
No, I was totally embarrassed, instantly embarrassed. I thought that it would have done a better job. But we still keep beating this dead dog called Roswell. Yes, that is most likely a series of events that did start the discovery of the modern era of it. In my country, within weeks, the CIA was founded, the National Security Act of 1947 was founded, within a week of Roswell. It was a big time for our government. The intelligence apparatus of my country came into being as it is today within a few weeks of the Roswell event. Other than that, people are never going to get any evidence on Roswell. Most of the players are dead, the authentic ones. Most are so old and still that old patriotism thing that I'm not going to betray my government. They're not going to do it. It's not going to be a satisfying pursuit for anyone.
So
it has not been today.
What can we gain from Bentwaters that we can't gain from Roswell?
You can gain proof. You can gain this house of cards called the UFO cover-up possibly tumbling down if a grassroots movement gets powerful enough and demands enough evidence. And hopefully on my end, when enough unity can happen between the witnesses to these events, both civilian and military, to force the issue in congressional and senatorial hearings. We're all given immunity. Personally, I don't give a crap if I'm given immunity. I'll do it anyway. And this is the one where it can, I've always believed, there's enough here, and there's so much more to come, that the walls are going to come down.
Such as what? When you say there's so much more to come?
There's too much evidence on Bent Waters. There's too many witnesses. There are too many... It's too concise if you get away from the media's treatments of this. It is, though not a crash and not bodies left over, it is the definitive case for evidence to prove that there are non-human intelligences here. That's the best I can describe. Everything that we have will stick. Like I said, not only the evidence that I can provide of the reality of Bent Waters, there are people with other hard evidences that they're sitting on.
Can
I don't
you
know why.
can you hint?
Of who?
Of who or what?
Well, Colonel Holt, for instance, has pot indentations where they did plaster casts from the landing sites.
Yeah.
He owns them. I don't
What
know.
other evidence? Holt is known. Is there anything which is not known presently?
Oh, plenty, yeah. The radiation, the scrapings they did from the trees where one of the objects hit a tree earlier in the sightings. Those exist. Sample bottles from, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Photographs.
So who's got this stuff?
Well, a lot of the federal government does.
What
but
about this 35mm film that was shot all this stuff?
that went to Germany. That was put in an aircraft and taken there. And
Is that available?
no.
So is any of the other stuff available? I mean, how can we get hold of
What stuff do people want? I think when it comes down to
if you had an independent lab, a forensics lab.
it's been done. We've done it already. We have had soil analysis done that show that an anomalous event took place on a site that I claim this event happened in 15 years ago. We've had 3 analyses done that stand up every time in a scientific environment. And that's just one piece of evidence. We all have medical damage as us witnesses that show conclusively that in our lives we were exposed to a highly unclean nuclear element. Okay, that doesn't come from working around nuclear bombs. It comes from being exposed to what we were. We have, my God, so much. I mean, in any court of law, there would be more than enough evidence. If people are looking for a carburetor from the object, no. If people are looking for a skin sample from any of these entities where I can say that was skin on them, I'd say no. No one in this realm will ever get that. But if you want to go on good solid testimony, good solid paper trail, scientific analyses of soil samples, affidavits, the government's excuses, which all speak for themselves, we have a case here that's unbreachable and only the tip of the iceberg.
Can you hint what the rest of the iceberg is?
Well, the government's going to have to get to the rest of the iceberg.
Is the government getting nervous? Is the government allowing this stuff out? Is the government actually looking for somebody to hold the banner for them so they don't get egg on their face? Would you think there's a situation like that happening? The agenda is changing?
Right. Is the agenda changing with all this? No. My personal opinion is that the general populace here and in America and maybe other places are going to take this upon themselves and bypass government. I don't think any of us can expect the truth to come from politicians, or that would be a first, wouldn't it? I don't mind saying it. I mean, it's true, and I never have found a person that disagrees. I think this is going to be answered mainly, maybe not conclusively ever, but most of the good answers we're ever going to get are going to come from a grassroots movement of people joining together and demanding answers. And if it becomes an overwhelming number, government has to come clean. I mean, at some point, if they're forced. But I think the phenomena, whoever's behind the phenomena, aliens or whatever, have bypassed governments also.
They seem to be doing that more often. There seem to be more and more people coming up with that.
Yeah, and people are feeling freer to talk about their experiences. I'm just one little guy that had a thing happen to me in the military. There's nothing unique about me. The best thing about my story is that there are a lot more evidence to it to present than some of the folks that don't have documentation from other sources involving an event they went through. That doesn't mean they're any less credible. But I think if I do anything good, it's just to inspire people to stand up for what they believe in and demand answers, especially in this country, on what happened at RAF Bentwaters in December of '80. Because these events are of a defense significance. They always will be. This was history, and it's a history with a security classification. That's a shame.
Is it because there were those nuclear weapons on board that the British don't want to be seen to being bossed around by the Americans, that they don't want to
I'm
say
sure
that
there's
everything happened?
a major...
There's too much
Right.
face to be lost.
I think there's a major public relations problem with this for the Ministry of Defense, always has been. And
The Ministry of Defense don't like even admitting that we used.
right, I think
shells.
it exposes in some very terrestrial way the relationship your government and my government have shared since the end of World War II, which I think sadly puts the English government in almost a subservient position to the United States government. I don't agree with it, but I observed it. Though we leased your bases, and there are some bases we still lease, what goes on within those bases will go on regardless of what British law says, as far as weapons testing and this and that, and nuclear weapons. So there's a lot of issues here that are rather sensitive, even forgetting UFOs. There's a lot of potentially embarrassing.
And do you think that's a major block for releasing the information?
Oh, definitely. Well, not releasing, but the story, the UFO information, no. But I think it's a major block in any information coming on this case, because I think it stands to leave a lot of people in current high positions very embarrassed, because they were probably in government and affected some of this policy some years back anyway. And they don't want to get caught with their pants down. I'd love to see it, though. I've been working for this for a long time. In my country and yours. I love this country, Great Britain. I do. And I think the people here are wonderful. And I think Americans aren't all that bad either. And people are generally suckers for the truth. I used to always say, oh God, I used to be asked that quite a bit. My family worries that could happen because they've seen the escalation of the harassment and so forth. I guess I wouldn't. Sure, anything's possible.
So why don't you just sort of, well, it happened 15 years ago,
just
you
get
had a
on
hard
with my
time,
life? Yeah.
don't get a
Forget
day
it.
job or something.
Right, right. Well, I have a day job.
Well,
But a good
So to
point.
speak.
No, it's a good point. Why don't I just forget about this thing? It's been anything but satisfying. But on the other hand, it has been satisfying when I reach regular people on the street that at least they can know that there's someone out there pulling for them. It sounds almost like I'm a politician, but I wouldn't mind taking a shot at it in my country. I don't think I'd have this much of a chance. As far as being bumped off, I don't think anyone that's done. I believe I'm doing good work. There's no hidden agenda. I've always felt.
I mean,
that
apart from the passport problem,
right, it's going to
that
escalate.
wasn't really about Bentwaters. It was not because you mentioned somebody with the nuclear weapon.
No, it was.
That-
Ramsey Clark felt that it dealt more with the incidents in question than the nuclear problem. He says the nuclear issue is out in the open now. So I'd have to agree with him on that. As far as getting bumped off, though, to answer that question, I get it a lot, so I'll address it, is that my family worry about it. But I think that anyone that has affected change or attempted to in this world, many of them have been bumped off, of course, but I could think of, you know, it sounds so dramatic. I don't think anything will ever happen to me. I think I couldn't die naturally without people wondering, I wonder. But I think that to affect change, you have to take risks. You have to, there will be an escalation. There are elements within my government that are not pleased with me. So sure, that could happen, but you're not going to live forever.
So what about the connection between, I mean, you mentioned that Bent Waters was our version of Area 51. I was talking to earlier when you mentioned that you worked at S4 and Area 51 in...
Oh, I didn't work at S4. I was there. I was a guest of Bob Lazar and some other folks out there. I didn't work there. My brother-in-law has been in Area 51 because he's an inspector. I won't even go into that anymore because of his job on this. No.
Yeah. Fine.
Can't. He'd
no,
lose
that's
it.
absolutely
okay.
fine.
He'd lose it.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just a coincidence that I'm related to someone that does go out there.
Excellent. So, I hope you have a good time.
I'm
Thanks
having
very
a
much.
great time. Really, thank you.
The weather's like this all the time in England.
I know.
It never rains.
What am I doing in the rain? Am I mad or something?
Tactical bunkers, you know, the tree would give you a lot of,
Yeah, cover and stuff.
you know, so we'd be in there and you'd hear
Lonely spot, eh?
very, especially at night. Yeah, there was an aircraft in there too. And up and
Hey,
over.
that's a person over there.
Really?
Yeah. Where you looking?
Where?
Watch out, the sloping area here.
That looks like just a thing.
The weapon storage area we're going in. And this is where, on this base, they have the largest backline storage facility in nukes. I worked in here many times. Woodbridge has the same thing. And we'll show you that you can just see for yourself, they wouldn't have kept, you know, pop guns in here and caps. These are all Quonsets. A lot of these buildings had functions back then. Only in this spot though, notice this? They always did. And that's because of residual and a lot of microwave stuff that's left over. Or still going on. Okay.
That again.
Now watch, hey, watch vehicle
Yeah,
control. Okay, so we'll have to just hide.
Hello,
duck,
can
and
you
cover.
say it again? So
Let's go
we can
this way.
record it. We're not picking you up. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Oh, we're inside the triangles now.
That's still shut. We're in good space, you know, all radiological stuff, everything's under this pad.
See the drain. There's no getting in anywhere, man. You can see the drains up.
Oh yeah, what would happen here? The ordnance would be brought into this building for this site here. As you can see, that tower is looking right down in it, so no one can move in this place without getting shot. The ordnance, when it would come in, would be to this facility. And this is where, you know, as you can see, there's all lead shielding and everything on this. That's because there were nuclear elements here. Second one, and all out here is the storage facilities of what was not the largest nuclear storage area in all of NATO. And everything's underground here, boys. As far as you can see.
It's not sudden raining.
But this was a real clean environment with a lot of controls. And this is where, out in the direction of Woodbridge Base, from this room, and I was on post way out that way, from P-18, they started to see the lights come back from right up in here.
Oh, right.
I'll show you even
What's
Central.
P18 from here? What's P18?
P-18's at the very end of the runway.
Right.
But all this, everything here, anyone have a match on? A match? Don't say your ass in my face.
No, I haven't.
But look, you notice this has only been down since '92. Look how these things just fall apart when you leave them alone.
Nature comes back fast, man. Pretty fast.
Sure does. There, I mean, it's massive.
That's a big place.
It's much bigger than people
That
think.
is bigger than what you reckon, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it spreads all over the forest.
Yeah, all through it, and that's why is that the runway, the flight line's still quite a clip over. And all that facility is under this. What goes on in it, God
Do you reckon
knows.
there's any way we can work our way down into the underground bit?
Well, that's what we're going to explore. I don't care if I'm wet. But if this is a great place to get some film, because they'll tell you that none of this existed. We called this part the Atomic Cafe, and there was a reason for it. That everything's under the ground. Even these are just the entrance ways. Then hydraulics will bring you down to a sub area that's that big. It's as big as just the nuclear part. That is not the underground facility. Okay, there's the housing. Okay. Over there. Let me just take a look for a minute to see if we have any company. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like any vehicle traffic. This would have been impossible to get footage from here, before '92.
Yeah.
But you can get a sense. Is Brenda and everyone are all over that way. But this is it.
This thing is shaking. I reckon we should go.
Is it
It's
shaking?
supposed to be. It will do.
Yeah, they have to have some. Yeah. Anyway, just be cautious on the stairs. They could booby trap. You know, there's a lot of things. This is the hydraulics right here. This is where the ordnance comes in and starts to go down. This is the whole back end. This is where they brought down. All that's they've tried to seal it up. But this is the back part that drops down with all hydraulics.
Check this. It's concrete.
Yep. They've resealed it. This is the lower. This is See what I mean, guys? We were actually in a storage facility. This is where we would have brought the nuclear. We would have brought the nuclear ordnance into the area here where we're at, and it would have been brought in on a truck, a slider, 1 megaton unit, brought to this point, and then wheeled further. It was a guard shack at each one of these in the whole operation section. And here, as you can see, this half would start to descend, and it would go down probably about 20 feet to a massive area that spread out, and that's where the ordnance was kept. And you can see what they've done here. This is the floor here. Here's where the line divides, and they've sealed it. They've tried to seal it. It runs along like this. Runs up underneath it. They've poured new concrete to kind of obscure it and fill it, as you can see. Right along here. Right back here now. You can see this. And it would be tight as a drum. Right along here. You have about this much room standing. I'll shoot from about 20 feet. And this is it. Just what I was telling you. And it just runs. This is the back part of it. And they've sealed. You can see over here. Guys, look at this. They've sealed it. They've sealed all this.
Show us with a touch.
This is just the seal for the drop door. All fresh concrete just securing it, obscuring it. But this back area we're on would drop about 25 feet with hydraulics and into a facility that was beyond.
So we're inside now.
We're inside one of the surface areas. They're not that big, and you'd find ordnance and things here. But what we're seeing in the back is ventilation that connects to the subterranean facilities for the WSA and will come up to a vent on top. You wouldn't need a vent in here because obviously people wouldn't live in this place or stay here and work. However, down below you do, and that's the air vents, part of them.
And they go down.
They go down.
Yeah, you can see, actually.
Yep. See how the light goes? We'll just drop it. They do drop down. And down they go.
Yeah.
And all the...
Going in. We got an open thing, special and bulletproof glass.
Shut the door.
Look here. Chemical weapons secretly housed that we had. We did have chemical alerts all the time. That's a 3-level biohazard, is what that means. That's violent.
Right. What's this? We've got a doorway here. Do you reckon this is? Yeah.
This was... Sure. Oh, feel it. Feel it.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. I think...
Looks like heat sculpture.
Look at this. This is... They've taken down all the nuclear sites. All
How do we get in this fucker?
This is where the 4 channels of security radio came in, into the police.
Maybe, guys. There's something of interest here. Yeah. I feel it. I think it's...
Right, he's going to get him.
But this is a right, this is command. Let's see what happened. This is the offices the aliens had. Now, you might as well check it out. Going on. Aha. This is all command.
This is just a little bit bulletproof, this way.
Yeah, it's not much.
Probably open up.
We're inside the security area. We've got a security room here. We've got where weapons would be stored, clipped in there. The base of the rifles go down there. More weapon storage here. Go down a couple of steps into this room. And we got a lot of plug sockets. And in this room here, a lot of telecommunications stuff. And coaxial cables for radio, so this does appear to be somewhere where they would be listening to radio. Inside one bunker building now, and we've got a doorway, yeah. Caution. Keep firm grasp on door during windy weather. Keep door closed during missile assembly or checkout operations.
Filled argon sign on the bottom.
Filled argon.
This is missile shop.
Missile. And this is the shape of the missile. Shop. Missile shop.
Is there artwork?
Yes, outwitted them again.
Where's he gone?
Scumbags.
Where's he gone?
You will never stop us coming in your base. He's up there now, you can have a look. He's not going to see you in a million years. Whoa.
Could have the torch. Right, can you give me the torch?
This doorway.
Can you give me the torch?
Yeah, sure. Of course you can have the torch, my dear Richard. I do not believe what I'm looking at. We've got a fucking control room here. Fuck. To exit shelter. Shelter, look. To exit shelter, go through door 8. Control inner guard. Oh my god. That's so people can drop things through. What the hell is this place? Look, this opens. And then British Telecom. Right. Telephone room. So we've got all the
digital switches, I'm telling you.
all the telephone gear here. Turn around and look what we got here. It's a patch board. It's a patch board for telephones. For patching, tapping.
No.
In this command room thermostat. Right, this is the command and control center where we've just been in. Give you an idea of where it is. There's a control tower. Here's the building. There's a blast door. There's another blast door. There's the venting. There's an ancillary building, and here we go. Deputy Commander Operations. And Wing Intelligence as well. Building 533.
It's gone 9 o'clock already.
It's 9 o'clock. There's this thing is on in here.